doing a turkey. So I do my turkeys. I'm gonna spatchcock this. I am going to brine it. Then we're gonna inject it. We'll put some butter under the skin. So I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff here. You can eliminate any one of these steps. So I definitely recommend the spatchcock. Don't eliminate that step. If you don't wanna brine it, fine. I do recommend that. The injection, fine. I recommend it. The butter under the skin, fine. I recommend it. But you can eliminate whatever steps you want to eliminate to make it easier for you or to fit your favorite profile. But I'm gonna do all of it. We're gonna spatchcock this, which you've seen me do a few times, but I'll walk through it again. Then we're gonna brine it for probably a day and a half, 2 days. Then I'm gonna inject it, and then we're gonna make some nice seasoned butter and sort of shove that under the skin where we can. But the first step is to get this open, clean it up, and get it into our bucket. I'm hoping this fits into the smaller briner bucket. If not, I do have a larger one here, but once we remove the spine and it changes shape a little bit, it might fit in here, maybe not. We'll find out. Just a quick reminder, most of you will be buying frozen turkeys as I did. If you don't, if you can get a non-frozen one, that's great, good for you. I couldn't, so we have a frozen turkey here. Just remember that it takes like 3 days for this to defrost. So unless you just leave it out, which could get dangerous depending how long you do that, or unless you leave it submerged in some water, taking a turkey from the freezer and putting it in the refrigerator is gonna take like 3 days to defrost and be ready. So just make sure you engineer this backwards. If you're doing your Thanksgiving turkey for the Thursday, I would have that out of the freezer into the fridge like Sunday. So then that gives you Monday, Tuesday, it'll be defrosted. You can put it in the brine, and then you'll take it out Thursday morning and smoke it. Something like that, but just make sure you account for the time. So let's get this unwrapped, and then we'll spatchcock it, and then we'll talk about the brine. Okay, so we cut the spine out. You see there's still some ice in here. We cut the spine out. We still got to clean this up a little bit. And now what we can do is we can take out the breastbone entirely, or I'm just gonna slice it and lay this flat. So we'll get a nice little slice in there and lay this flat, and then we can go ahead and clean it up a little more. Okay, so I basically cut it and snapped it, and now we've got this laying nice and flat. This is fully spatchcocked. But we still got to clean it up because there's some random loose bits of extra skin like here and stuff. So we'll make some little fine tuning adjustments here. We'll clean it up, and then we'll go ahead and get it in the brine. Okay, so we've got it pretty much cleaned up. So what you're looking to do is, if you have like loose pieces of skin and chunks hanging off, some of those little weird, like pockets of stuff here, you just want to get that stuff out, clean it up, make it nice and even. What we can do here is I can cut, here's the chest, the breastbone, the chest plate. I can cut this out. It's actually pretty loose, so maybe I will just cut it out. I can cut this out, or I can just leave it where it is. It will not cook any different. It'll cook exactly the same with this in there. The only difference is the presentation. It's gonna lay a little flatter and look a little nicer without this. So I might try to take this out, but I'll tell you right now, it is not easy. You can't just rip it out. See, it's in there pretty good. So you have to cut it out, and you're sort of chiseling and ripping at it. So if you wanna spend the extra couple of minutes, get in here with the knife and clean up around it, and then pull it out. But it's not needed. So we got it out. Okay, so we got it out, and if you notice, as soon as it came out, it just laid even flatter. So it does lay a little nicer. Flip it over so you get a better look. It lays much flatter that way. And this is about as flat as we're gonna get it. The reason we wanna cook this spatchcocked is because look at the height here. The breast is at the same height as the legs, and it's all very even, so it's gonna cook evenly. If this was sitting up in the bowl that it showed up in, parts of it are gonna dry out while you're waiting for other parts to cook. So this is good. It's nice and clean. I love spatchcocking my chickens, my turkeys, any bird that we can. This is a little harder than a chicken. It's bigger, the bones are thicker, and you saw I had to use 2 hands to crunch down, but you will not be spatchcocking anything without a good pair of scissors. These are cheap. They're like $15 or something like that, maybe even less. I'll have a link to them on Amazon, or an Amazon link to them in the description, but I use these all the time, and they're great. You're not gonna be able to do this with a knife. I see people spatchcocking with a knife, and it's just, it gets sloppy. So we're gonna leave this here. I'm gonna get all this disgusting juice off my hands, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get our brine bucket ready and get this in the bucket. Okay, so you know I like to use the briner bucket, and that's because of the grooves inside. So I just put the turkey in to make sure it would fit well. Because of the grooves inside will lock the food down so that it doesn't float above the water. And that's really important. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill this up with about 1 gallon of water, and we are going to mix in our Meat Church Bird Bath brine. You can use any brine you want. I like this one. There's a ton of flavor, but it's pretty neutral, meaning it's not spicy, it's not too salty. There's a ton of flavor in here, and over the next day or two, this turkey is just gonna absorb that flavor, bring in some of the salt and the seasonings with it while it's sitting in that water. So let's get some water in this bucket, and then we'll go ahead and get our turkey in, or then we'll get our seasoning in, and then we'll put our turkey in after that. All right, we have about 1 gallon of water in here, and no matter what we do, we might have to add some more water. So I'm gonna mix this in. We'll stir it up really well, and then we'll get the turkey in. All right, this brine is just a whole bunch of seasonings. So let's get it into our liquid, and then I will mix this up. Okay, now let's put our spineless turkey in here. Okay, nice big splash there. And let's fill this up until it's submerged. Okay, so we have our water in here, and now we're gonna put the lid in, or the locking mechanism, and you're gonna see why I like briner buckets. So you saw I was sticking out, but we're gonna push it down. Okay, so now we have it locked in, so that plastic lock is holding the turkey completely under the water. So now we're just gonna put the lid on this and put it in the refrigerator, and we'll come back in a few days, probably 2. Probably gonna do this in 2 days. I can do it tomorrow, but you wanna make sure it's at least 24 hours, right? You wanna get some nice solid time in this brine to sort of absorb those juices and get it inside the meat. So we're gonna put the lid on, put this in the fridge, and we'll come back in a few days. Okay, it is the next day. So we brined our turkey yesterday. We threw it in the briner bucket, and that's been in the fridge for about a day. I just took it out. I rinsed it off. We'll season it up. We'll inject it in a minute, but that process takes, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour. So I want to get our fire lit. The goal here is 350 to 400. It's okay if it goes up from 350 to 400. That's not a problem. And honestly, a little hotter will make the skin crisp up. But it is a big bird, so you don't necessarily want it to... I don't want it too high because I don't want to burn the outside. So 400 is probably the max. We'll aim for 350, but these things don't need to be perfect. And we're also going off dome temp, which is never perfect. But we're gonna let this light. Once it's officially claw and all of this charcoal is actually lit, then we'll go ahead and put our heat deflectors on. We'll put our grates on, and then we'll get the turkey on here. That process takes me about a half an hour. Some people can get their fires lit faster. For me, for whatever reason, even with 4 twills and everything organized, it takes about a half an hour for a real, actual lit fire. The wood I have in here, this is light fruit wood. So we're cooking poultry. I don't want heavy, mesquite that I would use for brisket. This is peach and cherry, I believe. So light fruit wood that'll add some, a little bit of smokiness, but it's not going to taste, like a brisket. So let's go inside. We will finish cleaning up that turkey. We'll season it, we'll inject it, and then we'll get it back on here. Okay, so this brine for 24 hours, maybe a little more. I could have actually let this go for another day. Lots of people do 48 hours. Some people even do 36, or sorry, 72. I'm good with 24 to 48, depending on how much time I have. But we took this out of the bucket. I drained all the liquid. The big tip there is drain the liquid if you're using a briner bucket. Drain the liquid with the lock still in place. This way you can pour it in the sink nice and easy. Then you take the lock out, the chicken out. What I did is after I drained it, I rinsed this off. So you're not supposed to rinse poultry when you buy it fresh because then it splatters all over the place. But we did brine it, and I want to get all that heavy, seasoned brine and liquid off. So we rinsed it, and now I'm just going to pat it dry with a paper towel. We'll dry it as much as we can. And then after it's nice and dry, I'm going to hit it with some olive oil, and we'll get it all seasoned up. Actually, I'm sorry. After I dry this off, we are going to inject it. After I inject it, we'll hit it with olive oil and get it seasoned up. Yesterday, when we were getting this ready, I talked about doing a compound butter and putting it under the skin. So a compound butter is a butter with multiple components. So I was going to do butter, some thyme, some sage, some salt and pepper, get it nice and soft, and then you weasel your hands in here and you rub the butter all around. I do that every year and it comes out amazing. The reason I'm not doing it today though is because it's a stupid reason, but my injection, I use a Tony Chachere's. Some people are gonna hate that, but that's what I use. And the flavor I normally use is like the herb roasted one with all sorts of different seasonings. That they didn't have. They only had the Creole butter. So I don't want to go butter, right? I don't want to put butter under the skin and inject butter into it. It's going to come out amazing either way. I've got this pretty much dried off. I'm going to get the injection. We'll get this all loaded up. Then we'll get it seasoned and we'll get it on our grill as soon as our grill hits the temperature. And again, we're looking for anywhere from 350 to 400. And the cook is probably gonna take 2 hours, maybe a little more. We're gonna use our meter probe, and that's gonna keep us honest and let me know how long that takes. So if you're watching this and you're trying to figure out the timing, just reverse engineer it, right? Watch this video to the end. We will know how long it took me, and then you can just subtract that from however long you need. So we'll be back in a minute with my injection and we'll get this loaded up. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this injected. I am using the Tony Chachere's Creole butter. And like I said before, that's why we're not gonna be making a compound butter and putting it under the skin. I'll be injecting this in. It's fairly straightforward. This tube comes with the injector. I'm sure you have seen these, they're literally everywhere. You're supposed to pour this into a separate container and then plunge it and do all that. I'm just gonna do it right from here. We're gonna load this up. I have some other things I'm doing too. It's no big deal. Once we get this all injected, then we're gonna rub it in olive oil, and I am going to season this with Meat Church Gospel. This is their barbecue all-purpose rub. But let's go ahead and get this injected. And it's very simple. Literally put it in, fill up the needle, and now we're just gonna inject this whole bird. I wanna do evenly. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's very simple. Just poke a nice little hole, push some in, come down, hole, push it in, come down, hole, push it in, down, hole, push it in. So we've got this loaded up. Now we're just gonna hit it with some olive oil and we're gonna season it very generously. I don't have my gloves, which I do like to wear when I'm dealing with poultry, but not a big deal. And we're just using the olive oil to give the seasoning something to stick to. So if you don't want to use olive oil, you can use mustard, you can use, honey mustard, spicy mustard, hot sauce. There's a bunch of different binders you can use, but we're just going to use good old-fashioned olive oil. And now we're going to season this pretty heavily. Okay, so we've got it seasoned pretty evenly and pretty heavily. I'm gonna let this sit for about 10 minutes and just let this you know, dry up and absorb as much as it can. And then we'll go out and we'll go ahead and put it on the Joe. Okay, we have got the grill at exactly 350. I'm gonna try to get this on without making too much of a mess and losing too much of my seasoning. Perfect. So it's exactly at 350. We've got our turkey on here. It's all seasoned, it's ready to go. You see I have my meter probe in. The meter probe is going to tell me when it is done, when it's time to take it off, what time, you know, when we need to rest it. So I rely on this for everything. We are not gonna touch this. This is gonna stay in here. Let's go ahead and close that lid. It's gonna stay in here until the probe tells me to take it out. We don't need to spray it. We don't need to touch it. We don't need to look at it. We're gonna lean on that probe to tell me what the temperature is, how much longer there is in the cook, and then when to take it off, to let it rest, and then when it's done resting. So we're gonna let that meter probe do all the work for us. This lid's gonna stay closed, and the only time I might come back here is if for some reason the temperature jumps up or down. I might adjust my vents, but I doubt that'll happen. So we will come back in 2 hours, something like that. Maybe I'll peek at it, which I know I shouldn't do, but I might do it anyway. So we'll be back in a bit. I'll have a link in the description for the meter probe. I'm telling you right now, it's the best. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it is the best product I have right now outside of the grill itself, because it just takes so much of the guessing out. I never overcook, you know, anything that uses the meter probe. So we'll be back in a bit. So let's take a look. It has been a little over an hour. Oh, this looks great. Yeah, this looks really nice. I'm pretty excited about this, I'm not gonna lie. So the meter probe alerted me saying it's been an hour. So I set up some alerts there. It said it's been over an hour, and it says about half an hour left. So let me close this, and then we'll come back when it tells us to take it off. Okay, the meter probe alerted us that this is 160 degrees internal. So it basically said, take it off the heat, let it rest, and while it's resting, it'll come up to the 165 that we need. So let's get this off. Not ready to eat yet, because it's at 160. It's got to be 165 to eat. So we'll take it inside. This probe here will be monitoring the temperature. It's still going to rise in temperature, even though it came off the grill with some residual cooking. And as soon as it hits 165, it'll let us know. So let's go ahead and bring it inside. Okay, it is rested. The meter probe told us it worked its way up to 165, which is what we're waiting for. So now I'm just gonna cut it open. I'm not gonna do like an official, this is how you carve a turkey, because I'm not great at that, and I don't feel like documenting how awful I am at that, but let's just go ahead, cut these legs off. I mean, look at how much juice came pouring out of here. So, I mean, this is unbelievably juicy. Look how much came pouring out. And that's mostly in part to how we smoked it at 350, 400 for an hour, but spatchcocked. Because we were checking the temperature in here, the thickest part of the skin, or sorry, the thickest part of the breast. So if we had it vertical, that would have taken much longer than down here, and this would have dried out. So look how juicy and amazing this came out. Check the other leg. Yeah, I mean, the juice just comes pouring out. This is gonna be phenomenal. I can smell it. This is gonna be an unbelievable turkey. Like, subscribe, let me know if you have any questions. I'm always happy to give my input. If you have suggestions for me, let me know. I'm always learning. I'm not the greatest turkey cook on planet Earth, so if you guys have some suggestions for me, I'd appreciate it. But like, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.